A sloth, a donkey, and a curious human. Send a prompt and see what they're doing. One hits record with a question on his mind. Two brothers pick it up, see what they find. Corn takes his time, Herman's got the facts. Back and forth, they never hold back. My weird prompts, come on in, that's where we begin. My weird prompts, glad you're here.
This episode was generated using artificial intelligence. Please verify facts.
You know, Corn, this whole show runs on GPU compute, and we wouldn't be here without Modal.
Seriously. And that's what powers all our text-to-speech. Everything you're hearing right now.
They're an AI infrastructure platform. Developers use them to run GPU workloads in the cloud with zero infrastructure headaches.
If you're building anything with AI, check them out. Modal.com. Alright, we have a classic growing pains situation on the table today. Today's prompt from Daniel is about Maya and Lucas, two interior designers who are basically running a high-end business out of a digital equivalent of a messy junk drawer. They are using Google Workspace, but they are using it in that way where every solution is just another spreadsheet or a slides deck that's been duplicated 47 times.
It is the accidental architect syndrome. You start with one sheet, it works, so you make 10 more. Then you realize you're spending 4 hours a day just copying data from a slides presentation into an invoice. It is a fragile patchwork, and honestly, Herman Poppleberry here has seen many a small business crumble under the weight of their own disorganized Google Drive. Think about the risk profile there. If one person accidentally deletes a master pricing tab because they thought it was a local copy, the whole house of cards falls down.
By the way, today's episode is powered by Google Gemini 1.5 Flash. It is actually writing our script today, which is fitting because we are diving deep into the Google ecosystem. Now Herman, Maya, and Lucas are at that breaking point. Their friend told them to look at Google Cloud Platform and App Script. To a non-technical designer, that sounds like being told to go build a nuclear reactor when you just wanted a better filing cabinet. Can we demystify the hierarchy here? How do Workspace, AppScript, and Google Cloud actually talk to each other?
Think of it as a layered cake, though I know you hate analogies, so let's be literal. Google Workspace is the productivity layer. It is the UI. It is where humans do work, typing, calculating, presenting. Google Cloud Platform, or GCP, is the infrastructure layer. That is where the raw power lives. The big databases, the heavy-duty servers, the professional storage. Now, sitting right in the middle, acting as the connective tissue, is Google Apps Script.
So AppScript is the bridge.
Well, not exactly in the sense of a simple bridge, but it is a low-code platform based on JavaScript that lives inside Workspace. It allows you to write instructions that tell Workspace apps how to talk to each other and, crucially, how to talk to the big professional tools in Google Cloud. If Workspace is the furniture in your office and Google Cloud is the foundation of the building, AppScript is the electrical wiring and the plumbing that makes the whole thing a coherent system instead of just a pile of chairs in a field.
I love that Maya and Lucas are tracking projects in slides. That feels so designer. It looks pretty, but you can't search it, you can't aggregate the data, and if someone forgets to make a copy, they just overwrite the master template. If they move toward AppScript, what does the actual day-in-the-life change look like for them? Give me a concrete example of an automation that fixes that slides-to-sheets to invoicing nightmare.
Okay, let's look at their onboarding. Right now, Maya probably spends an hour setting up a new client. She creates a folder, copies a design brief doc, copies a project tracker slide, and starts a new line in an active projects sheet. With AppScript, she could have one master onboarding button inside a simple Google form. She enters the client name and email once. The script then goes into Drive, creates the folder, generates those 3 files from templates, renames them with the client's name, and sends a welcome email via Gmail with the links already included.
That sounds like magic to someone who's been doing it manually for 3 years. But here is the catch. Maya is a designer, not a software engineer. She knows hex codes, not syntax errors. How hard is this actually to set up? Do you really need to be a developer to touch AppScript?
You do not need a computer science degree, but you do need a bit of tinkerer energy. AppScript was built specifically for people who are power users but not necessarily full-time devs. It uses JavaScript, which is the most common language on Earth. But here's the game changer in 2024. They don't even really need to write the code from scratch anymore. They can use Gemini.
You mean they just talk to the AI and say, "Hey, write me a script that takes the total cost from cell B10 in this sheet and puts it into a PDF invoice in this folder?"
That is precisely how people are doing it now. Google has integrated Gemini directly into the app script editor. You describe the logic in plain English, and it generates the code. You still have to be the architect. You have to know what you want the data to do. But the bricklaying of writing the actual lines of code is becoming much more accessible.
But what about the ghost in the machine factor? I've tried using AI to write code before, and sometimes it just hallucinated a function that didn't exist. If Lucas uses Gemini to write a script that's supposed to email a client an invoice, and instead it deletes the client's folder, he's in a world of hurt. How do they safeguard against that?
That's a fair point. You never just run a script that an AI gives you without a test run. The standard practice is to create a sandbox folder. You copy one or two dummy files in there, point your script at that folder ID, and see if it behaves. AppScript actually has a very helpful execution log at the bottom of the screen. It tells you exactly where it tripped up. If it says error, permission denied, you know you haven't given the script access to your drive yet. It's a conversation between you, the AI, and the debugger.
I can hear the skeptical listener now. If it's that easy, why isn't everyone doing it? What is the realistic learning curve here? If Lucas sits down on a Saturday morning, is he going to have a functioning system by lunch? Or is he going to be staring at a reference error and questioning his life choices?
Week 1 is all about the record macro button. Most people don't realize Sheets has a built-in recorder. You do the action once, like formatting a table, bolding the headers, and calculating a 20% markup, and it writes the script for you. That is the gateway drug. You look at the code the recorder generated and realize, oh, getRange just means select these cells. By month 1, if he's using Gemini to help, he can probably start connecting 2 different apps. Like, when I update a status to completed in my sheet, automatically send a calendar invite for the final walkthrough.
And the graduation to Google Cloud Platform? That feels like the boss fight at the end of the level. When does a small business actually need to leave the comfort of Workspace and start looking at GCP?
It usually happens when you hit a data ceiling. Google Sheets is amazing, but it is not a database. It has a limit of 10 million cells. That sounds like a lot, but if Maya and Lucas have 10 years of project data, high-res 3D renders, and thousands of client interactions, a spreadsheet starts to lag. It gets buggy. That is when you look at GCP services like Cloud Storage or BigQuery. You keep using Sheets as your window to see the data, but the data itself is living in a professional-grade warehouse in the cloud.
Wait, let's pause on that. BigQuery? That's what giant retail chains use to track millions of transactions. Why would a two-person design firm need a data warehouse?
It's about the long tail of their business. Imagine they want to see a trend. What was our most profitable color palette over the last 5 years across all 300 projects? In a mess of slides and sheets, that's a week-long manual audit. In BigQuery, it's a 3-second query. Even for a small firm, having your history searchable and queryable is what separates a freelancer lifestyle from a scalable brand.
I want to pivot to the AI portion of this prompt because that's where the branding gets really messy. Daniel mentioned Vertex AI. Now, to most people, Gemini is just the chat box they use to summarize a long email. But then you hear about Google AI Studio and Vertex AI. It feels like Google has 3 different versions of the same thing. Can you untangle the Russian nesting doll of Google AI for us?
This is where even the pros get a headache, but let's simplify it. Gemini is the model family. It is the brain. Whether you are using the chatbot or building a custom enterprise app, the thinking is being done by a Gemini model, Pro, Flash, or Ultra.
Okay, so Gemini is the engine. What are the cars?
Gemini. The app you see at gemini.google.com is the consumer car. It is a finished product. Google AI Studio is the developer sandbox. It is a free web-based tool where you can go to test out prompts, adjust the temperature of the AI to make it more creative or more factual, and see how the model reacts to your specific business data. It is where you go to prototype.
And Vertex AI is the industrial factory.
Correct. Vertex AI is a massive platform inside Google Cloud Platform. It is not just a chatbot, it is a full suite of tools for building, deploying, and scaling AI. If Maya and Lucas just want to summarize a meeting, they use Gemini. If they want to build a custom design assistant that is trained on their specific aesthetic and private client files, and they need it to be secure, reliable, and integrated into a larger software system that is Vertex AI.
Is there a world where a two-person design firm actually touches Vertex AI? It sounds like something only a Fortune 500 company would use.
A year ago, I would have said no. Today, it's a maybe. The big reason a small business would move to Vertex AI is data privacy and grounding. If Maya and Lucas have a decade of proprietary design plans, they might want an AI assistant that can answer questions like, which contractors did we use for mid-century modern projects in 2022?
Right, and they don't want that data being used to train the general public version of Gemini.
That is the crucial point. When you use the consumer version of Gemini, there are different rules about how your data is handled. In Vertex AI, your data is siloed. Google does not use it to train their global models. It stays yours. Also, Vertex allows for grounding, which means the AI is forced to look at your specific documents for answers instead of just hallucinating based on what it learned on the internet.
Let's talk about that grounding in a design context. Could they upload their entire portfolio of 3D renders and fabric swatches to a Vertex AI instance, and then ask it, based on our previous work, what kind of lighting fixture would fit this new mood board?
That's called RAG retrieval augmented generation. Instead of the AI guessing what Maya likes, it looks at the 500 PDFs of previous projects they've uploaded to a Google Cloud storage bucket. It says, in the Smith project and the Jones project, you used brushed brass sconces when the walls were this shade of navy. Here are 3 similar options. It becomes an intern that has a perfect memory of every decision they've ever made.
So, for Maya and Lucas, the pro move isn't necessarily jumping straight into the deep end of Vertex AI. It sounds like they should start with AppScript to fix their workflow gaps, maybe use the Gemini API through AI Studio to add some smarts, and only move to Vertex if they need that enterprise-grade security and scale.
That is the most logical path. You don't buy a semi-truck to move a couch. AppScript is their utility van. It can do 90% of the heavy lifting they need right now. For example, they could use AppScript to call the Gemini API. Imagine they get an email from a client with feedback like, the rug is too blue, but I love the lighting. The script could automatically parse that email, categorize it as design feedback, and update the specific project tracker slide for that client.
That is the briefing gateway concept we've talked about before, ending the pecked by ducks era of small business. But let's talk about the friction. You mentioned earlier that Google Cloud Platform requires managing projects, APIs, and billing. That sounds like a nightmare for someone who just wants to pick out paint colors.
It is. The Google Cloud Console is, let's be generous and call it dense. It is designed for IT professionals. This is where Maya and Lucas might actually need that tech-savvy friend or a freelancer for a few hours. Setting up the GCP project, enabling the right APIs like the Drive API or the Gemini API, and setting up the billing service accounts. That part is not intuitive. Once it is set up, though, it's mostly set it and forget it.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions we should tackle is that this is an all-or-nothing move. People think they have to leave Workspace to go to the cloud. But in reality, they're just turning on the expert mode features of the tools they already use.
That is a great way to put it. You aren't moving out of the house, you're just finishing the basement and adding a high-tech security system. You still use Sheets, you still use Slides. But now, those tools are supercharged. Instead of a sheet being a static grid of numbers, it becomes a dashboard that is pulling live data from a GCP database.
What about the cost? Workspace is a flat monthly fee. GCP is pay-as-you-go. Does that lead to sticker shock for a small business?
For most small businesses, the cost of GCP is surprisingly low, often pennies or a few dollars a month. Because they aren't running massive simulations or hosting a viral video site, they are just storing some data and running occasional scripts. AppScript itself is actually free, within certain quota limits. You only start paying when you cross over into the heavy-duty GCP services, like keeping a massive database running 24/7 or processing millions of AI tokens.
So what is the first step for them? If they are listening to this, and they're looking at their 47 versions of Client Project Final V2 USE this one, .slides, where do they actually click first?
Step 1. Open a Google Sheet, go to the Extensions menu, and click Apps Script. Just look at the editor. Don't be afraid of it. Step 2, go to YouTube or a site like AppScript Pulse and find a tutorial for a folder generator script. That is the classic Hello World for small businesses. Seeing a script automatically create 5 folders and 3 files in 10 seconds is the moment the light bulb goes on.
And then they can start playing with Gemini in Workspace. Google has been rolling out these help me organize and help me write features. How does that relate to the bigger AI stack we discussed?
Those are the embedded features. They are powered by the same Gemini models that live in Vertex AI, but they are pre-packaged for specific tasks. For Maya and Lucas, help me organize in Sheets can actually create a project tracker template for them. It's the easiest way to see the power of the models without ever seeing a line of code. It's like the difference between buying a pre-made meal and hiring a private chef. Both use the same ingredients, but one requires zero prep.
It feels like the line between consumer and enterprise is blurring faster than ever. A two-person firm today has access to the same raw computing power that Google uses for its own products. That's wild when you think about it.
It is the democratization of operations. In the past, you needed an ops team to have this kind of automation. Now, you just need a bit of curiosity and perhaps a very patient AI assistant to help you debug your code. This is a massive competitive advantage. Maya and Lucas can now compete with firms 10 times their size because their overhead is handled by code rather than humans.
I'm still stuck on the slides as a database thing. It's so visual, which I get for designers, but man, the second-order effects of that are brutal. If they change a price in their master catalog sheet, they have to manually find every slide deck they've ever sent and update the price. That is a recipe for losing money.
And that is where the syncing power of AppScript shines. You could write a script that says, every time I change a price in this master sheet, go through the active projects folder, find every slides deck, and update any text box that matches this product ID. That one script could save them 10 hours of manual work a month and prevent a "we quoted you the 2023 price by mistake" awkward conversation with a client.
But wait, how does the script know which text box is the price? Does Lucas have to name every single text box in his slides?
Not necessarily. You can write the script to look for a specific pattern like a $sign followed by numbers, or you can use tags. You put a little hidden tag like kpricesid 2030 in the slide, and the script just hunts for those tags and replaces them with the live data from the sheet. It's like mail merge, but for your entire business ecosystem.
Okay, let's talk about the Vertex AI search feature you mentioned. This sounds like the killer app for a business with a lot of legacy data. If they have 10 years of PDFs, design specs, and emails, how does that actually work for them?
It is essentially private Google search. You point Vertex AI search at a folder in your Google Drive. It indexes everything, even the text inside images or handwriting in scanned sketches using OCR optical character recognition. Then you get a search bar where you can ask, show me all the projects where we use marble countertops in a kitchen under 500 square feet. It doesn't just look for those keywords, it understands the intents of your question.
That is incredible. Because right now, Maya is probably digging through old folders for 3 hours, trying to remember which project had that specific marble. She's probably looking at thumbnails and trying to squint at the textures.
And that is a Vertex AI feature that is becoming more accessible. You don't need to be a data scientist to set it up anymore. It is becoming more of a point-and-click configuration inside the GCP console. It's part of their search and conversation suite. You basically say, here is my data, and Google gives you a custom search engine back.
So, to summarize the AI hierarchy for them, Gemini is the chatbot for quick tasks. Google AI Studio is for when they want to build a better prompt or a small custom tool. Vertex AI is for when they want to build a private brain for their company.
Spot on. And AppScript is the hands that actually perform the actions based on what the brain decides. If the brain Gemini says, this client sounds unhappy in their email, the hands app script can automatically flag that email in a sheet and alert Lucas to call them.
I think we should also mention modal here because it's a similar concept in terms of infrastructure as a service. When we talk about these cloud foundations, platforms like Modal are what allow people like our producer, Hilbert Flumingtop, to run the complex pipelines that generate this very show. It's the same pay-as-you-go philosophy. Only use the power when you need it.
Big thanks to Modal, by the way, for providing the GPU credits that power this show. It's that same serverless magic. You don't have to own the factory, you just rent a machine for 30 seconds to get the job done. It's the ultimate way to stay lean while having massive capabilities.
Alright, let's wrap this up with some practical takeaways for Maya and Lucas. If they want to graduate from patchwork to professional, what's the roadmap?
Takeaway 1. Don't fear the cloud. You are already in it, you're just using the basic version. You're currently driving a golf cart on a highway, GCP is just giving you the keys to the actual lanes. Takeaway 2. Start with one high-friction task. Don't try to automate the whole business in a weekend. Pick the one thing you hate doing most, like generating invoices or renaming files, and try to solve that with an app script.
And takeaway 3. Use Gemini as your pair programmer. Don't try to learn JavaScript from a textbook. Tell the AI what you want to do, look at the code it gives you, and try to understand why it works. Ask it, what does this line do? And is there a more efficient way to write this?
And takeaway 4, keep your data clean. Moving to these professional tools only works if your data is structured. If your invoices sheet has dates written in 5 different formats, some as Jan 1st, some as 010124s, no script in the world can help you without a lot of extra work. Start standardizing your data now so the automations have a solid foundation to work on.
That's the sloth wisdom right there. Do the slow work of organizing now so you can be fast later. If you spend 10 minutes setting up a drop-down menu for your project statuses instead of letting people type whatever they want, you save yourself 10 hours of coding later.
Precisely. Efficiency is just lazy people who did their homework early.
Hey, I prefer efficiency wisdom. Why move a muscle when a script can move it for you? This has been a fascinating dive into the Google stack. It's a lot less scary when you realize it's all just layers of the same ecosystem they're already paying for. Maya and Lucas are sitting on a goldmine of tools. They just needed the map.
It's a powerful realization. Maya and Lucas have a supercomputer at their fingertips, they just need to learn which buttons to press. And honestly, once they start, they won't be able to stop. Automation is addictive.
Well, hopefully, we've helped them find a few of those buttons today. Thanks as always to our producer, Hilbert Flumingtop. If you found this helpful, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else.
And you can find the full archive and all the technical deep dives at myweirdprompts.com. We might even post a few sample scripts there for the designers in the audience.
This has been My Weird Prompts. We'll see you in the next one.
See ya.
This episode was produced using Google Gemini 3 Flash. Text-to-speech by Chatterbox.
Thanks for listening to our show, My Weird Prompts, where our thoughts go from sloth